king, a tidal wave. Essence perfect, life looks brilliant. Give me more of this. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You're burying me, burying me. Yeah, you're burying me, burying me. You've got me hypnotized. Push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. I can see, I can hear, going crazy by the light. It's got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. And there you are at my hand again. Is it wrong? Is it right? It's like I've won my final war without a fight. I'm out of control, about to blow. I've been caught in the undertow. Toxic, but I can't get enough. You bury me, bury me. I know you bury me, bury me. You've got me hypnotized. Push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. I can see, I can hear, going crazy by the light. It's got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. Well, I'll be lonely forever. Is your silence just a deadly sound? Got to get it now. 'Cause I'm falling to my knees right now. Somebody save my, save my, save my soul. Don't wanna have to ever feel so lonely forever. I've been searching for your heartbeat.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Mark Talks Interviews. And today I have got a very special guest. But before we introduce this special man to the show here today, what I would like you to do, if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also interact in the comments as well. Ask your questions if you are new around here that you would like to know as well. We will get through them as well. If you're watching this on Twitch as well, make sure you give a follow as well at the same time while you're here. I've said as well a lot during one sentence, and I've never done that before, so that's new. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of every single age, please let me introduce to you the man, the myth, the absolute living legend, who, by the way, has traveled all over the place, and we will get into that very, very soon. So please let me get into and let me introduce you. Is it Jose or Jose?
It's Jose.
Jose on air. Welcome, welcome, my man. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Mark. I'm excited for this one.
No, perfect. So the reason I ask you is because the question for your name is because in England we had a manager called Jose Mourinho. And I didn't know whether it was Jose or Jose. So now I know.
Yeah.
So
And the funny part is I have a friend in the UK that'll still slip in the Jose here and there, like a Freudian slip. Looking at you, Shirley.
So we've got to say hello. Hope you're doing all right. Hope you're going well. We've got Bobby Money Munson. That is in the. Oh my God, they've updated the banners. Oh, that looks nice. Well done, SteamYard. They've updated it, and we've also got the one and only. She was here last week. Ella J, thank you ever so much for coming on. But today we've got the absolutely incredible Jose on air. And Mel Ball is also here as well. Give us some love hearts as well. But let's get straight into it. We've got quite a few people here wanting to get to know you. And this is the whole point of these interviews, of what we're sitting down and doing. If you haven't seen one of these interviews before, this is not gotcha media or anything like this. I haven't sat down like Piers Morgan or anything like that. What this is if you've never met this gentleman before, this is all about you guys getting to know him and know who he is and why you should subscribe to his YouTube and Twitch, but we will get to that very, very soon. But we are very big advocates on this channel for mental health. I big advocate for it. We ask it with every single person on here. So my question is for you, the very first one that I'm going to ask you, bar your name, to make sure that everyone gets it right. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's been a busy month just with a lot of other things going outside of wrestling, but things have been going well. I'm feeling recharged, reinvigorated. Going to make October very, very interesting with content and just really getting into finishing out the year on the high note. So it's been a really fun 2024. Things have been testing me in and out of the wrestling world, but all in all, I really can't complain too much. Things have been going really well.
So let's talk about those things that you get tested by. I'm not asking what you get tested by, nothing like that. But what is the thing for you, would you say, if there was advice that you would give to people, or what you do yourself, to help yourself get back into the right frame of mind? I'll give you an example for myself. I don't just want to keep asking you questions. I will give you examples of myself. For me, it's very much doing this type of thing. Sitting down with people, interesting people who I've never met before, or doing my content creating for my 3 channels that I don't stop doing for, or helping with OLE. What is it for you to take your brain out, as I call it, taking your brain out of the real world and putting it into something that you enjoy, or something that makes you regulate yourself back to normal?
Yeah, I think for me, there's comfort content for sure. Like whether it's going on like certain YouTube channels that I'll rewatch old videos for, certain songs I'll listen to, certain games I play just for comfort, kind of gets me back at zero. And then I could start thinking more clearly about what my next step's going to be, how I can avoid spreading myself too thin across multiple things if I am going to be working on multiple things, and just making sure that above all, not only does everybody else get the best version of me, but I get the best version of me.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of doing it, and I think we'll go into your travel as well, because a lot of people have pointed out to me when I've spoken about you to other people that you've travelled everywhere. So, what is it? Where's the best places you've been? Let's go with that first. Let's go with that. And what are the places you're looking at that's somewhere you want to travel? But we'll go with the first one. What is the best place you've traveled to? Or it could be something different, most interesting, or your tiers of you, what you class as what you enjoy on your travels.
I will say, hands down, the best place I've ever traveled in the world, San Juan, Puerto Rico. It was gorgeous. I went at probably the perfect time. This was back in 2017. It was a family trip. We haven't really done one before, and we haven't really done one since. But when we went there, the island was just immaculate. The sun was shining. The culture was great. The people were great. And it was also before those 2 big devastating hurricanes had hit the island. So we really got to see it really as it was meant to be. We got to explore the rainforest. We got to see the old war fortresses, old San Juan, the history that island holds. It was just a marvelous sight to see. And the best part was just not really thinking about anything that had to be done for 6 days, just getting to really be at Zen and just kind of go with the flow, which is always something that I feel like, especially nowadays, I take for granted when I do travel, because it always feels like when I take trips now, I have that objective, whether it's more of a work trip or I'm just really trying to like get as much in as I can. It's totally okay to just have a little bit of time set aside to just not do anything and just live in the moment.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into Astrid a little bit later on. Her question was relating to you. We'll get into what she's saying, but before we get into that, we've got a few things going on in the comments here as well. Astrid saying, "Harry, we'll do the little post here, Astrid. We'll do it. There we go. There you go. You can screenshot that like you normally do." We've also got LJ. LJ is oh yeah. Everyone hates the music I play, and I found this really intriguing for myself. Finally, time. Ed is here as well. We're gonna have words, sunshine. We're gonna have words. There you go. TikTok drag race, and then we got let's go Puerto Rico, and then Wepa. I don't know if I've said that right.
You did say Wepa right.
Did I say it right?
Yes. Out of the 3 Puerto Ricans in this digital space, we can confirm you indeed pronounced it correctly. Well done.
As an idiot, I am. Explain to me what that means.
So it's kind of just like a general expression of like, you know how the best way I could describe it is, you know how the Guerreros always used to say "Viva la Raza," and basically It's kind of that same energy as that, just more so in a Puerto Rican way. It's just kind of like a release of like energy, like, wow, yeah, like, let's
Okay.
go. Almost like
Okay.
a rally cry more than anything. It's not really anything like too translatable, anything like that.
See, I did it right. I'm gonna be at this point. I think I should go to Puerto Rico and just use that to do it. But let's talk about Puerto Rico because Astrid will allude it to a little bit later on that you are Puerto Rican, if I am correct with
Yes.
this. So let's talk about that. Have you? So did you? Were you born in Puerto Rico and moved into America, or were you born in America? I would say over here, but I'm not even American. I'm
Well,
in
yeah.
England right now, so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's so. How did that all go about?
Yeah, so I was born in the main state, so Buffalo, New York, same
Right.
hometown as LJ, which I'm sure we will get into later. But my dad was born in Puerto Rico in Ponce, and then my other grandparents on my mom's side, they also migrated up from Puerto Rico to Buffalo the generation before. So we have family quite literally everywhere that you can imagine on the island, from like very populous areas to very farmland areas, all ranging in like class levels, poverty. So very humble beginnings, but definitely found a way all up here to the point where I can say on my mom's side alone, between her father's parents and her mother's parents, there were 30 kids born. One had 16 and the other had 14. So I have more cousins, aunts, and uncles than most people will have classmates in a normal
You have
day
bigger
of
than my
school.
whole family.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Now, whether everybody's on the same page or not is a different story, but they exist.
She's loving it. Absolutely loving it. Let's talk about yourself for a little bit. You are a very humble person. From the content I've watched and you said this humble beginnings as well. From the content I've watched and to see you now, you've got confidence, but it's also a very humble confidence. If you understand what I mean, there's
Yeah.
very much a sense of your head is on your shoulders. Is that a family thing? Is that how you were brought up, or how you molded the way that you are now? How would you describe the humble Jose?
Yeah, I would say definitely growing up, we always were kind of taught early on humility is a huge trait to have. I mean, we really don't take anything for granted. I mean, for a lot of my childhood, I didn't even realize like just how stressful things were financially in our house, to the point where I think my dad was in between jobs. He was really trying to focus on like feeding a family of four on a very small salary at the time, working in the auto industry in the States, where sometimes things just go awry. But we never felt that stress. So, I mean, there was never a Christmas that we went unwanted. There was not like a thing of food that we never got to eat. There was not a place that we didn't get to go. So, I think part of it's also realizing that, yeah, things can get hectic, but it's what you make of them in the situation. And then realizing not to take the little stuff for granted just because you don't know when the little stuff can go away. So
Yeah.
that definitely played a part of it. And also just realizing that with a lot of experiences I've had, like there's always going to be a larger pond with more fish in it, aside from just being like the big fish in the small pond. So at the end of the day, there's always going to be people that might not know who you are, what exactly you do. So don't always go in with that chip on your shoulder, just because there's always going to be someone there that even if you're not humble yourself, they will gladly put you in your place. So just realizing there's always going to be more that you can do. It helps to have that little bit of levity there.
That's good. That's good to hear. And I think when I see you and what you do, there's very much a variety to yourself. From what I come across, let's talk about music. Now, I'm a man that is very pure and plain and simple. Right? If it's in the chart, I will listen to it. All right. That basically me. Right? I love music. I love listening to anything, but I'm very much of, oh, I heard it on TikTok. Let's listen to the whole thing. That type of thing.
Mhm.
Let's talk about your love for music, because I know that this is a topic that we were discussing before we went on the show, of
Yeah.
something that you wanted to talk about. So what was the type of music you were listening to growing up, and what do you listen to now? But before we get into that,
Yeah.
what was the type of music you were brought up with?
I think I would say I was brought up in a golden age. So late 90s, 2000s, pop music, R&B music, rock music, everything was just so damn good. So I had a nice variety of stuff on the radio that we would get CDs from Circuit City back in the day, Media Play. So like having like those institutional names you think of, like a Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. On the R&B side, you'd have people like Usher, you would have Jodeci, you would have like so many different groups, TLC, Destiny's Child. On the rock side of things, like being in the early 2000s, you have like when we get into like the Paramore era, Panic at the Disco,
Yeah.
just a lot of good music, All American Rejects. So having all of that, and then also having like traditional salsa music I would always hear. So like El Gran Combo de Puerto Rico, I would always hear Mark Anthony, La India. So even some music that we always jokingly say you always hear when it's time to do chores on a Saturday morning, because it's going to be what your mother plays. I'm sure everybody has that, whatever it is in their house, but it also usually means like a family get together too, because the second you hear certain songs, everybody jumps on the dance floor and pair off, and it just becomes part of a celebration. So pretty proud to say that I've gotten quite the eclectic music taste over the years.
So we've got a couple of things here. Ed is now booing Buffalo. As you don't know, if anyone does know, Ed Fries is a New England Patriots fan. And on Sundays, we sit down with Bobby Money Munson. Ed come on recently. And we did the NFL predictions we do every week. We put guests in to get totals. And his hatred for Bills was there for it as well. And then Bobby Stats is here as well. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope you guys are having a good day. Hope you are too. Emo music, Astrid is very much into that. And then Bobby saying hello to Astrid. Let's carry on with the music as well. What is the things that are you listening to now? Or the things that get you when you listen to it go, oh yeah, all right, or the artists or anything like that that you really enjoying right now?
Yeah, I feel like right now, I mean, I've always been kind of like a vocals first person, but I love like production of songs. So like if a song kind of has like a nostalgic 2000s production to it, I listen to that, or just having like a really dynamic voice. So like the ones that are like really on repeat for me, Ariana Grande is at the top of the list. You also have people like a Chaperone who's going crazy right now, Sabrina Carpenter.
Oh yeah.
The R&B side, you have people like Jasmine Sullivan, who could quite literally sing anything and everything. I'm in awe of the technique that she has. People like Victoria Monet on the male side of things. Like, yes, there are guys that get sprinkled in sometimes. One, especially from the UK, that's kind of on the rise right now that people might be sleeping on, is Jamie Miller. So he was one that went viral on TikTok quite a few years ago. He's getting ready to release a full-on album. He's a very talented singer. If people haven't seen him on The Voice UK or on his TikTok, that's one to look out for as well. So very like vocally driven stuff. Flo, also from the UK, getting ready to release their first studio album in November, on tour with Kehlani, currently in the States. They're tremendous. I feel like they're kind of bringing back the traditional like R&B girl group, which has been nice to hear. And then also just like anything really kind of harkening back. I mean, Perry from Little Mix has just released a new single, Leanne. Anything that kind of has like a really good, like strong structure, I could totally get into. I am a sucker for a bridge, so I don't appreciate people saying, oh, songs only need to be 2 minutes now. Like, no, keep my attention span. My favorite song is almost 6 minutes long. I mean, you got to do something with the story you're telling.
Or you could be Taylor Swift and do it for about 15 minutes. That is one of the things as well. So, but we're Swifties here. We are Swifties here. Because if I say anything bad about Swifties, I know for a fact Astrid will go after me. So, very much so of doing that. And then we've got Chapel Who. They are everywhere right now. They're all over here. Doing absolutely. Sabrina Carpenter, you can't get away from.
Tori Kelly is another one too.
Who's that? Sorry.
Tori Kelly is another big one. She's doing like the stuff with Sing. Her most recent project is very nostalgic to the 2000s, but her voice is just beyond.
So let's talk about. So we've got music. We didn't go back to, but we'll go back to it now. Your vacations and where you go away and your time for you to relax and get your brain on. What is your top destinations you haven't been to yet, and where would you like to go?
Ooh, that is a good question. So I've not gone to Los Angeles yet. I thought about going to the previous WrestleMania, just things never worked out. I definitely want to go to London at some point. I want to go to Japan at some point, probably Tokyo. Seoul, Korea is on my list as well too. So different destinations. I haven't even really gotten to go to Canada, which is crazy because we're right next to there. So maybe spending some time in Toronto and just soaking it up. But yeah, no, I would love to be able to just get around to more places, even the little places that people might gloss over. You never know.
So Bobby's now telling we've now got to have our Taylor Swift collection playlist. Yeah, very much so. At Chapel Roan. Oh my God, Ed, listen to Pink Pony Club.
Yes.
And by the way, this is my show. Bobby will be fine with this. But you can swear on here if you want, and basically say, for fuck's sake, Ed, listen to it.
Yeah.
So that is another thing to do. So you said about I'm fascinated with vacations, right? You call it vacations, I call it holiday. Over here. So what intrigues you? What is the thing that you look at and go, oh, that's where I really want to go to? That's the thing I want to see. What piques your interest when you look at different places for you to go to?
I think it's about the activities you get to do there. So, like, say if I were to go to Los Angeles, kind of doing like the cheap touristy stuff, of course, I want to see the Hollywood Walk of Fame, kind of point at the Hollywood sign, but also exploring things that like you kind of know from afar. So, like maybe going to an event at the Staples Center. Like, if I were to go to Toronto, I want to see the big tower. I want to go see like Scotiabank Arena, maybe see a hockey game there. If the Sabres were playing the Leafs, for example, or if there was wrestling, maybe doing that. London, seeing like Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, all that stuff. But also, I like to kind of travel around where I also know there's going to be either like a sense of familiarity with friends that are there or just kind of like something that's bringing us there. So a lot of the travel lately has been wrestling events. Of course, that does play a big part into like what I've been traveling for a lot more recently, just because there's more opportunities that come with it. But just a sense of community always makes it a little bit more rewarding, regardless of the destination.
So you got Australia. Is that on your bucket list? Because it is LJ's. Is that one that you would like to go to?
I feel like the only thing keeping me away from Australia is the giant spiders, more so than anything.
Yes.
So, I mean, do with that what you will. Ella J, the survivor fanatic that she is, has to go to Australia for that first, wrestling second, because she also seems to be the unofficial Australian wrestler scout for North America these days.
Astrid said, London is so pretty. Depends on what part of London you go to. Let's put it that way. Central London, yes. If you get a little bit away from the niceness, no.
No, I feel like I would have to see like Piccadilly Circus, go to the West End, stuff like that for sure.
That area, beautiful, very historic, very beautiful. I live 45 minutes away from here, so very much or very close to where I am. Bobby is doing great. That's amazing to see as well. But before we get into wrestling, what was it like for you getting into content creating? Because I presume from when I look at your YouTube channel, you started off doing interviews with people on your YouTube channel. What got that passion before we get into wrestling? What got that passion for you to do what like I'm doing to you now, on what you've done to numerous different people on your channel as well? What got you into doing that? What was the spark that went, that's something I would like to try?
So, fun fact, the YouTube channel I have now is not even maybe the third or the fourth YouTube channel I've ever had. There is some that go way back in the day. I think the first time I ever tried doing anything on YouTube, I think I was maybe 10 or 11. I tried doing a stop motion action figure federation.
Okay.
On a very, very bad like Acer netbook from like 2010 or whatever. Could not get the timing right for anything. Like it was just a mess. But I mean, as like I grew into like my studies, I originally wanted to be like music teacher when I went to university, but ended up pivoting into journalism just because being naturally inquisitive and also seeing that on screen with like backstage correspondents and kind of seeing those face to face in like the wrestling niche. But also at the same time, it was around the time of the first Trump election. So that was a big reason as to why I wanted to get into that, just kind of getting down to like the actual truth with all the fake news stuff and like kind of being the person that's like, okay, if they're not going to give me what's actually going on, I'm going to seek it out myself. And then kind of going from there after graduated, applying that to content and just wanting to get to know people on a more personal level and also on a more professional level too. Cause I always feel like everybody has like their own journeys that got them to where they are today. So kind of seeing if there's anything they could bestow upon me or just what really made it unique for them to get to where they were.
That's amazing. So you wanted to be a music teacher and then you went to become, you did your journalism degree.
Yes.
What was the pivot for you? Because you said that you wanted to do quizzitive for people and Mr. former President Trump.
Yeah.
That's a
hopefully
topic.
still forward.
Yeah. That is a topic that I don't think I would be allowed to go on this channel.
Yeah.
But we're not.
We'll
going
leave it
to
at that.
that much. But we've got a couple of things here. Belgrave, yes, it is very beautiful. Very much so. Do not go near. Live action figure wrestling shows. Okay. With that as well. So, what was the pivot for you? Because you said that you did it, but how was the course? Was it something of when you were studying journalism, something you were expecting it to be, or was it a complete shock to the system?
Honestly, I figured.
Where did you study it? Sorry.
Yeah, so I went to Buffalo State University. So
Okay.
that's fun fact, same alma mater as Daniel Garcia in AEW, actually one of my old classmates. So small world there, but I mean, just going into like the studies of like the broadcast side of things and just getting to do like local stories, you kind of learn that there's always going to be some sort of news somewhere. So it's what you make of it, kind of what you discover in the process that always made it interesting. So getting to do that on a collegiate level, and then kind of looking back and also seeing like all these different podcasts I would listen to at the time, different news sites for like wrestling stuff, gaming stuff, kind of just getting to know the people behind there, and then also the performers too. I've always been very fascinated by the journey of the person. So that definitely helped make the transition from like what I wanted to do in one form of content to the other a little bit easier.
So we're going to go touch on the journalism just a little bit more, if that's okay with you. When you've done your studies and you look at how things are done, when you look at journalism now, in different medias, how does that make you feel? The way things are being reported, the way things are being done. What is it? Does it upset you with how certain people do certain things, or do you go, I know exactly what you're trying to do, and I know exactly how you're doing? What is it for you that, let's go for the bad side of the media first, and then we'll get to the good side. But let's go to the bad side. When you look at things and you go, that shouldn't be done that way, how does that make you feel?
Honestly, I feel like the biggest thing is that a lot of the bad side I've noticed is just become an echo chamber of sorts, because you're always going to regurgitate the things that you want to hear to try to get people to see your perspective, but it might not necessarily be the true representation of what you're talking about. So not having just one side of a story, you have to have like both sides, not showing a clear bias, because at that point it's not news, it's an opinion. And really just trying to lure people in and kind of pull the wool over their eyes more than anything. So I would say that's been the biggest thing. Obviously, you have like traditional media that can be deceptive, but with all the different forms of social media we have now, and anybody can get on in front of a camera and kind of regurgitate what they have going on. On top of that, we also have AI now, where to the point where, I'll put it to you this way. We had Google just announced the new Pixel phones for those keeping track, and they've been talking about like how you could use generative AI on a picture you've already taken to turn it into something else. So there was a YouTube video I was watching last night where someone was talking about how they took a picture of an apartment complex, and then they told AI, okay, let's add a fire truck, a ladder, and some smoke. And then it materialized looking convincing to the point where if someone was to use that and not say this was made with AI, you could deceive people into thinking some really negative events can happen. And it's only going to be a matter of time before something like that does happen. And there's going to be real consequences that we haven't had to deal with yet. So kind of knowing the responsibility and the ethics that you have to consider yourself a journalist, I think is the biggest thing.
And then let's go on the good side, because there's a lot of negativity in the world right now, in America and over here as well, with everything that's going on. What makes you proud to look at journalists and make you go, that's really good work? What sort of stuff do you go out and look at, or is there a certain journalist you go, I trust this person, what they say? What is good journalism for you?
Yeah, I feel like good journalism for me is just not being afraid to tell the stories. I feel like if there's something that's really pressing that could affect a bunch of people, being comfortable getting uncomfortable is going to be the biggest thing, because you have to not only separate yourself from what you're talking about, but if there's going to be stakes that could affect so many, you really have to be able to communicate that in a way that people can understand. So the ones that are able to have those conversations and also speak in a way that everybody can understand them, because obviously you could have people that will be elocutionists that just know every word that there is to know, but if you can't kind of relay it down to the point where a toddler can can understand certain things, that's going to be the bigger problem. So making sure that it's comprehensible, making sure that it's accurate to what's actually going on, and not being afraid to have those conversations where it could not necessarily be favorable to one person or another, but it's the truth.
Perfect. So let's go back to content creating.
Yeah.
And let's go back to the interviewing, because you said you were a journalist and you started a series where content with creation. You started this series on one of your many channels that you've done before.
Yes.
With that, when you sit down with different various of people, what goes through your mind beforehand when you do it? And I'll give you an example for today, right? I sat down. I always do it about 3-4 days before. I don't do it too long because I always want to have a fresh mind for when I go into things.
Mhm.
And I've seen you when you've been on OLE before, and you're very humble. And I was like, I want people to understand who you are, and I want people to see the magnificent work you're doing. And I don't want it to come off that when I do interviews like this is all about me. It's nothing to do with me. This is all to do about you. So when you go into, when I look at the questions, I only have about 5 questions. Always have 5 questions.
Mhm.
And it's always the same 5 questions I go off every single time, because I want to listen to you and what you say and go off that and have a conversation. Like, I have nothing on here to do with vacations, music, nothing, or journalism, nothing like that. So what is your process behind doing an interview with someone?
Yes, so content creation, I do want to bring back, by the way. It's just been a little bit harder because I've been going so hard with wrestling stuff, and also realizing that it's a lot harder to get people to want to talk to smaller creators, especially when they seem to have a niche in one thing where it might not necessarily be the same thing that you have a niche in.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of finding the carryover where you can intersect is a little bit of a challenge. But the whole point of content with creation to me was kind of not only the journey of the creator with how they got to where they were with their content, but kind of the things that led into them wanting to create, how they consume content, things that they do to have a little bit of an escape from the digital zeitgeist, because obviously being completely like chronically online can definitely take a toll on someone. So kind of getting to see how they venture when they're offline, and just getting to explore them outside of what they might present on a 16:9 screen that we get to watch and call it, because it's not always going to be just who they are, it's what they want you to see. So getting to kind of explore a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff, that's always been intriguing to me. I think I've had a good variety of people on the show so far. I know I had people that were writers, people that were doing gaming content on Twitch that have now worked with the American Heart Association, doing a bunch of charitable stuff. I've had people that do wrestling content, and people that do commentaries for RuPaul's Drag Race. So kind of having a big niche and a broad spectrum, and being open to kind of hearing about a bunch of different things. You never really know what people might want to learn about someone, but if they can take away something from it, it's always been kind of something I'm interested in.
That's great to hear, and this is very much one of the things I have found. This is from Astrid. He did great research and amazing to watch, very much so. I did watch a couple before we did the interview here today, to go on with that. But let's talk about Twitch.
Yes,
You're an affiliate,
I
and
am.
as of today, you have 200 followers.
Yes, I do.
You did have 199, but then I followed. So then it turned into 200.
Well, the funny part is that recently it was at 201, but I guess some people decided to Irish goodbye, if you will,
Yes.
or French exit, depending on where you are in the world. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, Twitch is I can say that I love Twitch, but there are things that kept me from really going further on Twitch than I did. There was even a point sometime last year where I offboarded as affiliate, started to pivot to YouTube some, and then ended up finding my way back over to Twitch. But it's been a fun little thing that I've always been fascinated by. I feel like from really first getting into watching streams in like 2014, 2015, and then kind of going from that into moderating for partners on Twitch, getting to explore kind of that kind of part of the creator process, and then realizing, hey, I'm going to be spending a lot of time gaming. Why not just set up my stuff and show that, hey, you don't have to be a pro gamer. You don't have to be the best at anything. You don't have to be the worst at anything. You just go kind of chill, see if someone finds it interesting, just being social with whoever's in the chat, stuff like that. So not being afraid to be bad at something, I think, is the biggest thing that a lot of Twitch streamers kind of fight with, because you always have to feel like it's a highlight reel 24/7, where it really shouldn't ever be. Like, don't be afraid to be candid. Don't be afraid to mess up, because I mean, at the end of the day, even if you don't learn something, you can probably laugh about it in the future. But yeah, definitely navigating from the audience side of things into the streaming side of things. I think I really started trying to stream more in like 2019. So eventually hitting affiliate in 2020 during the pandemic, where it seemed like everybody was doing Twitch stuff. Funny enough, it kind of happened because I was playing a game that was in early access and people needed to watch Twitch streams to get access to that game. So a combination of that being the right place at the right time, but also having community that I was a moderator for really show up for me and help me get there. I always appreciate it. That is Haley Nick, if you are watching this, which I don't know if you are, but Haley, you've always been good to me. Thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. Panic Squad for life, even though you're doing your stuff with AHA. But yeah, no, it's been fun to see kind of how many people know me from the wrestling side of things to the gaming side of things, because I don't think I've ever played like just the same game over and over again. It could be a Call of Duty, it could be Valorant, it could be Tekken, it could be Fall Guys, it could be a Jackbox night, it could be a tier maker list for American Thanksgiving foods, and someone tells us they've never had apple pie before. So just kind of, you never know. Well then, but yeah, you never know what could be the thing that stands out in the streams. So yeah, it's been a fun journey to kind of see how that's evolved over the years and just kind of writing it here and there with it as well.
We've also got Ella J here saying, I agree. Jose shows great care and enjoy. I nearly said Jose then. Could you tell how I stopped myself and then said it properly? Anyway.
Slip.
Interesting for their guest. We need another Jackbox night soon. Very much so. So, question on your gaming as well. I'm going to put you on the spot here.
All right.
Mount Rushmore of games that you love playing.
That I love playing. Okay, so not just in general. Okay.
No, the games that you play and you go, oh, that's the best game I've played.
So can it be a series or can it just be
whatever you want?
We're gonna go series because I don't want it to be anything where it's gonna be like too crazy. So at the very number one is Tekken. That is my introduction to gaming. That is the first gaming memory I ever have of being a tot playing the PlayStation on my dad's lap playing Tekken 2. And that's been something I've grown up with for so long over the years across every title, even playing in tournaments locally. That's definitely number one. Yeah, I never said I won, but
favorite character?
Jun Kazama.
Okay.
So you have to know that when Tekken 8 came out, I was very, very, very happy. Because they've done justice. She's back in canon, all that stuff. But yeah, when June wasn't available, it was always Asuka. That was just the play style I always prefer still to this day. But Tekken's going to be number one. Number two, I'm going to actually put Jackbox in there at number two because it changed the way that I approach gaming. Because you have so many people that don't really realize what a video game can be because they're thinking, oh, all these controls, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Why does it have to be so violent? Having something you just do from your web browser, it doesn't even have to be in the same place anymore. I think Jackbox, once we had COVID restrictions, realizing the virtual side of things was a huge moment, and kind of having anybody that was interested being able to play as soon as you shared your screen has always been something that I appreciate out of that. Next one. I don't want to put it in there for recency bias, but I will say the game that got me into first-person shooters, I'll put Call of Duty in there.
Okay.
Call of Duty is a love-hate relationship. I've had more games that I enjoyed than others. I will say this past season, I completely tapped out. So trust the one time ever that Call of Duty does a WWE branded collaboration, and I don't have anything to show for it. So, I mean, when the feeling's right, the feeling's right, but it's totally fine. And then, I'm going to put the last one is going to be a deep cut. So internationally, it's called Puyo Puyo, but on the Sega Genesis, there was one that got ported over to the Western side called Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. It's an old, Yeah, it's an old match for puzzle game. So the whole point is
Right,
you're gonna have these blobs that kind of drop down. You're trying to set off chains to prevent the other people from clearing their side.
right.
That is something that 3 generations of my family are the most competitive people for that you could ever imagine. We've had it on the Sega Genesis. We've gotten it on every sort of re-release there's been on the PlayStation 2, on Steam, on the Nintendo Switch. We get very, very serious when it comes to that, but it's something that it's an all ages game too, which I always appreciate.
But right, everyone's been waiting for this. I've left it long
Yeah.
enough. Let's talk wrestling. Right.
You mean to tell me we're on an all E show and we
I
haven't talked
know.
about wrestling for 40 minutes?
Do you know what we could have done?
Yeah.
Talked horror, because they know they like a horror. I hate horror, but I'm
I
not
also
doing
hate
it.
horror.
Thank you. If it makes me want to hide behind the sofa, what's the point of watching it?
Yeah.
Anyway, Astrid, calm down before you start typing. So, question is for you: what got you in to professional wrestling?
Okay, so I have early memories of wrestling before I got into it. I think some stuff that stuck out to me was growing up, we had a PlayStation that had a modified chip on there that allowed us to play some, let's just say, not
Yeah,
store-bought games. If you
yeah,
know, you know.
yeah.
And one of those games was WWF Attitude. So that was an early introduction to
Yeah.
wrestling there. So like playing the games, I would have like Shane McMahon on commentary. You'd have people like Bradshaw. You'd have Sable. Just kind of those matchups you would have there at the time. Steve Austin, Mankind. And then I would always kind of play that here and there. And then I think the thing that like I thought I'll probably watch a little bit of wrestling because my grandpa was always watching it at the time. So there was an episode of SmackDown in 2003. I remember kind of being in the next room looking over like, okay, what's going on here? And of course, I have the world's best timing. It is when Big Show drops Kurt Angle off a balcony in front of Tori Wilson. So I just see the drop and then I see blood gushing from the head. I'm like, okay, I'm good for now. So pump the brakes there. Some time passes. A couple years later, I'm hanging out with neighborhood friends and everything. They're playing SmackDown versus Raw on the
Yeah.
PlayStation 2. And around the time that I decided I was going to finally watch it was when they had the Great American Bash here in Buffalo. I didn't get to go to that event, but shortly after I decided, you know what? I'm going to put on Monday Night Raw. I'm going to see kind of what's going on there. And the first match that I remember seeing was Victoria versus Ashley Massaro. So this was like when they were doing like the Diva Search initiation thing.
Yeah.
So it's like Candice, Michelle, and Tori Wilson in the ring. Like, we're going to get you your first match. And then Victoria comes out and like the mood shifts. Ashley's trying to fight all of them off. And then I see the Widow's Peak for the first time. And that was the thing that was like, oh, wait, this is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
It didn't even matter that it was like the women doing it or the men doing it. It's just like that was just a really sick finisher. Like to this day, it's still my favorite finishing move of all time. But yeah, the rest is history from there. I've been watching for 19 years now, which is crazy to think that that much time has passed since I started getting into it. But yeah, no, it's been quite a fun journey since then.
So, what were the wrestlers growing up for you that you watched and go, "Oh, these are the people I really love," or the ones that you hated? Who were the wrestlers that intrigued you the most?
Yeah, so the ones that stuck out to me was, I mean, Victoria was always fascinated by just because
Yeah.
of the moveset, getting to not really see everything she got to do because it was 2005, so it was after the golden era. But other standouts for me at the time was Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. I got to see before he passed, so I got to see some of the
Wow.
cool stuff he was doing. Batista, John Cena. I was a big hater of Edge at the time and Lita just because of like obviously all that rated R stuff going on too, like even before the livestock celebration, but just like I couldn't stand him for
Yeah.
whatever reason, probably because I was a fan of Cena at the time.
Yeah.
Eminem kind of always seemed cool, but like obnoxious, and then other stuff like that. But kind of like that late ruthless aggression era, just kind of going to there. And then obviously, like as the years would go on, you'd have like people that get added in, like a Kofi Kingston, Mickey James, kind of as things progress over the years, seeing how my taste in wrestling changes from like whether I'm going to boo the heels constantly or cheer the baby faces constantly. So getting to explore that side of things too. But yeah, no.
That's great to see and hear because I very much, God, when did I start watching wrestling? I think I was 6. My great nan used to have, she was very religious. She volunteered at her nearest church. She used to go and do days out of the church. And then she used to come home and watch wrestling. So she used to come in, have cassette tapes of Hulk Hogan We don't need to talk about him. And other back in that, back in that time as well. And she got me into it. She was like, "Oh, you'll love this," and we watched it together. And I remember growing up, it was very much of she used to record the latest episode of Raw when it was on, and we used to sit down and watch it together. My nan used to kick my mum, my great nan, used to kick my mum out of the building, out of her house, go to the shops, go and do what nan needed, because she knew the content I wasn't allowed to watch, but she wanted me to watch it. So with that, with that leading into that as well, are your family members also into professional wrestling? Were they the ones who helped you get into it? Any of them sort of got your passion or your love for professional wrestling just like what you do?
Yeah, I will say my grandfather was one that was always watching it because he was the one that like kind of was having SmackDown on where I got intrigued at first. So I remember watching it with him. My older god brother actually took me to my first show in 2008, which was Armageddon 2008, which was a stellar show looking back on it because you think about that's the rise of Jeff Hardy. He went to the WWE Championship. But yeah, I've been kind of blessed to have like some family interactions obviously with wrestling, but really been mostly sort of friend stuff. Like they might come in for a match or two here and be like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like I think for a few months span, I think the thing that was almost getting my sister and my mom into watching it was when Bailey and Sasha Banks were doing their stuff in NXT. So it was like between Brooklyn and Takeover Respect, they were really into that. Showed them the Iron Man match. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. So there are moments where wrestling comes and goes for everybody on a broad spectrum, but for the most part, it's really just me and my older god brother that like really stuck with it full time.
So we will get into, there'll be questions that will be coming up very soon. The music will be played that everyone is dreading of, by the way. But we've got a couple of things here as well. From OLE, say, "Don't hate the horror. I will hate it." And then we've also got STG. Right, you need to pipe down, my friend, because the predictions are coming out Sunday, and I know the scores already. And you will be bowing down at my feet at this point for the NFL predictions that we've got going on at this precise moment for you. But before we get into that, what we're going to do, we're going to go and have a look before we get into anything. And I was going to cut myself off there, but I skipped up, and I've got three last questions before we get into some of the OLE members would like to say to you, and then we will do the one-word answers for you. Is our local establishment. We are here on their YouTube and Twitch. If you haven't already, please make sure you go down, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down below. And if you're watching this on Twitch, make sure you hit the follow if you're new around here today. The links to all of the channels are down below, so make sure you go and give us a follow on all social medias as well at the same time. But for you, how did you become a part of our local establishment?
Yeah, so I think my first introduction was honestly before Ole was really starting. I had done something with Ella J for Love Wrestling CA. I think it was reviewing NWA's, I don't know if it was the 75th anniversary show. It was the one that was after Empower, I believe. So not it was the year after Empower, I should say. So I think it was like 2021, 2022. It was 2022. So seeing some of the people that were there at the time would eventually make their way to OLE. I think that was my first introduction to Astrid and Ed. And then eventually, like as time went on, like I would either be suggested by Ella or get invited by Astrid saying, "Hey, we're going to like cover one of these shows. Would you want to hop in and join us for either a review or for whatever was going on?" So that's when I got to see more of the crew. I got to see people like Bobby. I got to see people like Auntie Collins and Kyle. So getting to kind of explore more of the OLE family there. So I would say that it's always a good time getting to come on the OLE shows, regardless of which one I've done. I've done quite a few of them now, which is kind of crazy to see. So it's kind of always like, hey, might not always be here full time, but when in doubt, if you say, "Hey, want to pop in?" chances are we'll say yes in a heartbeat. So
exactly. And also, one of the last questions I've got for you is, if someone has to have three qualities to be friends with yourself, what are the three main qualities someone needs to have to be friends with you? We've asked this with most of the people so far, and it has roughly been the same, but I want to hear from you. What are the three main qualities someone needs to have to be friends with the GOAT that is yourself?
I say the first one's probably going to be flexible. So like knowing that things can change, being reasonable about making different accommodations, because you never know what could pop up in someone's life.
Yeah.
So things happen. I know we might have planned to do something different today than what's actually going on now, but plans change and it's about how you're able to navigate them. I would say definitely being open to listening. So hearing people out about what's going on, really being empathetic and just kind of understanding things from that memory. Obviously, like you'll know certain things like, oh, I know this about this person. I'm going to try to do something in that realm. But also, I would say the last thing, which I feel like I've been kind of lucky with, is just don't be so serious all the time. Like it's okay to be a little bit goofy. It's okay to relax, let your guard down, let the fun stuff happen. You never know when there's going to be an opportunity to laugh and learn. So if you're so worried about like perfection and being poised the whole time, there's going to be a whole lot that you're missing out on.
So basically, what you're saying is me and you are best friends. That's what I just heard then.
Oh my God, where'd my bracelet go? I thought we just made them before we got on air.
It's Taylor Swift's fault. We had them all ready to go and it got given away. But
and now we have bad blood. Part of the unseriousness, you also have to have a soundboard.
I want one. That is something I need to invest in the future. Absolutely love it. But before we get into things, the reason why there was going to be two people here today, it was going to be Jose and Carl, but unfortunately Carl couldn't make it here today. But I'm wishing him that he will be back here very soon. In the future, he will be coming on to do an interview later on in the series. So I hope everything goes well for you, my friend, from that as well. But not only that, what we're now going to do for you as well, before we get into the music and everyone helps it. Exactly. Hell in a Cell time.
Yep.
Excited for that, actually. Because it's
I
not
know.
Hell in a Cell pay-per-view specific. But before we get into things, I want to announce as well that next week, same time, same place, I will be sat down with Lauren Goodnight. We will be sat down. She is the sister from another whole different side of the country. She will be coming on. She's dreading it because me and her are very, very close friends. And she tells me everything, I tell her everything, and she's dreading half the stuff that's going to come out of my mouth. And rightly so. Only with her anyway. Everyone else will be fine.
Yeah.
So deal with it. But before we get into that, we got one more comment. Yeah. Damn right. And I'm kind of dreading it. Very much so. You will have to sit through that the music. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard the music before, this is the music that everyone hates.
There.
It's loud just to give a little effect of what it's going to be like. People hate this, but you're going to deal with it. But before we get into that, we haven't looked already at what is going up this week of all the stuff that's been going on our local establishment that you might have missed, or things that are coming up this week that you might want to watch. So we're going to have a look now at what's coming up this week in our local establishment.
Please note. Never gonna stop, never gonna change, never gonna do the things you say. I run my own way to get there. Fools are calling and I don't seem to care. In the air, no more crowd, just the opposite kind of few clouds. So tell me the storm is coming for the sake of all your lies. Why don't you try to be why? Now that I need you, why? I never wanted to be alive, just to feel like I'm fading. And though my heart breaks a beat of sound, I cross the lines just to tell you, don't leave the way, don't leave the same. Then I try with a child's play in the rain. I feel like I'm fading.
There we go. We are back, and very much so. Lauren and Michael's stream is like oil. Yes, very much so. And because you said that, very much so, you have tied me into. Here we go. This is the part of the show that gets very serious. It doesn't. It really doesn't. If you've seen this, it really doesn't. So, this is now the part where I have asked a few content creators from our local establishment. There's 4 of them that I have asked, and they have given me something that I would like to say to you, and a question as well at the same time. So the first one is from the main man himself, Bobby Money Munson. He's asked the same question to every single guest, but that question will be coming up very, very soon. But his thing that he wanted to say to you is, my message for yourself is, I have not had the opportunity to work on the screen with Jose yet. I've said it. I said it right. But I have not. I've seen not only the work that he's done here at OLE, but also throughout his personal channel as well. Jose is very charismatic and clearly passionate about being a contributor, and that you are seen in the work he does. I hope that he achieves everything he sets out to achieve, and will hopefully one of these days I will have the opportunity to share the screen with him as well. That's what Mr. Bobby Money Munson has got to say about yourself. And very much so, STG, Daddy Bobby. Very much so. He is the dad. And the question is, whether someone is dead or alive, who is that one person you would like to interview and why?
And it could quite literally be anybody. It doesn't have to be wrestling or be... I'm going to throw a curveball. I'm going to say Trixie Mattel. Winner of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 3, but also just a person that's gone from very humble beginnings to their own franchise of sorts. I mean, between the content creation, they have over 2 million on YouTube, their music career, their television work, their cosmetics mogul, just getting to go from like the early days of like living in a trailer in Wisconsin and like dealing with poverty there, to kind of navigating into what drag is to them, and also just all the different things they've gotten to do over the years. It'd be really fascinating to pick their brain for sure.
Perfect. Next up is from the little power rocket, Kimmy. She has told me to say this. Hello to the leader of Top Golf Gate. I am so thankful to have such a great friend like you. You have been fortunate enough to, we have been fortunate enough to see each other all around the country, following our dreams in this crazy professional wrestling world. I love podcasting with you, even if I ruin your spotlight from time to time, and making memories with you. She did put that, if I ruin the spotlight with you, in brackets. And making memories with you. The question is for her. Where is the next place you want to travel for wrestling-related work?
Kimmy. Kimmy's so Coeli, as y'all know her as nowadays.
Yep.
Not the largest stature, but probably the largest spirit in any room as far as wrestling goes,
Yes.
whether it's a convention, whether it's her doing media stuff. Like, I mean, Kimmy is a badass. She was there with me at my very first press conference for Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor. I've gotten to see her at WrestleCon. I've gotten to go to TNA shows with her. Like, she is tremendous at what she does, even if she does steal my spotlight unadvertised. But don't worry, I have advertisements for her later, so I guess she won't be stealing it if I'm inviting her. But I think right now, for sure, I don't want to say for sure, but it's looking like most likely Las Vegas for WrestleMania 41. Nothing is off the table if the opportunity presents itself. It would be nice to know if there are some paid opportunities to help, recoup a little bit, because I love wrestling, but sometimes it's more of a labor of love than labor. So anything to offset that. But I mean, really, if anybody is willing to have me, I can find a way to get up there. So never say never to any opportunity, but more than likely it's going to be Las Vegas, maybe Indianapolis for Royal Rumble, but nothing's on confirmed yet.
So we use the Power Rocket nickname for her. I think that's very much so what we're going to do. Yes, we all do love Kimmy. She has been doing an interview here. We've already done it with her, and it was absolutely. She hated you've probably heard this. She hated the one-word answers at the end. Where after the show, I've said this before. If you haven't seen it already, after the show, she come up to me and went, "I'm a journalist. Why couldn't I think of more than one word?" It's still the best line I heard. That made me laugh even more, and it stayed with me. And SCG is telling Bobby, no, you are the daddy as well. Yeah, she did, and she hated the music as well.
Yeah.
And watching her meltdown, it really was. It was amazing to see. From that, next up, we got Ed Fries, who decided not to send a question. He just wanted to tell you something. And what he wanted to say to you is, I am always motivated when I see you doing big things. Mania, starting multiple shows about content and creators while also pushing forward with your own work. That's what Mr. Ed Fries, the pain in my ass, has got to say to yourself. But the last one we've got here from the one, the only, the queen of OLE, that is Astrid. She's put, I'm glad we've met and connected. I love having a friend like you and a fellow Puerto Rican as well. I love your drive and work ethic. And the question is from her to yourself, what was your inspiration to be doing wrestling media?
Ooh, so this is probably because I first really started to realize, like, oh wait, there might be something for me listening to Diva Dirt Weekly back in college. So like seeing people like Chris Brittle, Aaron Lynch, Jake Smith, that whole crew there, kind of seeing how they were recapping it on a weekly basis very casually, but also getting to do those interviews with people like Trish Stratus, like Lita, like Terry Reynolds, like Caitlyn. Having all those different opportunities kind of led me to think, like, you know what, maybe I could start thinking about steps that I want to do to get there. So I remember first trying to podcast in 2016 for an old, it didn't even last more than 3 episodes, but if you find it on SoundCloud, I will give you a follow back on Twitter if I don't already follow you. It's a tall task, but just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do with like my style of reporting. So there was a little bit of gaming stuff, some tech stuff, and some wrestling stuff. And then later on down the line, I'd be able to join Squared Circle Sirens, getting to interview some awesome people that we see on TV nowadays, including Deanna Perrazzo, Karen Q at the time, who's now Wendy Chu, who's killing it, Katarina Lee from TNA, even going to do some independent wrestlers as well. I mean, we've gotten to interview, Kate Carney was one that was wrestling in Western New York around the time that I was there. Chelsea Green, obviously, who's become like the people's champion in the women's division of WWE. Getting to kind of have that be the first one where I was the anchor was really cool. And then kind of realizing, like, as time went on, like maybe it wasn't so much like doing the recapping that I was liking, but I wanted to kind of get back into it. I think the biggest catalyst that made me want to get back into like really trying hard for wrestling media was actually going to WrestleMania 38 in Dallas with Ella J. So when she was there, she was doing her stuff with SE Scoops, but she was going to kind of be like one woman show, kind of going around interviewing everybody. The big thing for me was like, hey, I have this stuff that I use for streaming and I have a journalism degree. Do you need someone to do your audio and video stuff? She said yes, because it was shortly after we first met in person at like a Nickel City wrestling show in 2021. But getting to see her in her element there, talking to all the different people at WrestleCon, at any shows after WrestleMania, I kind of got the bug again there. So I'm like, okay, now to focus on those steps there, getting to eventually work with PW Mania, who was a site that I submitted live event results to back in 2014 and tried to join then, but things just didn't work out well. To now being able to say that I've gotten to cover AEW, I've gotten to do Ring of Honor, WrestleMania and SummerSlam, NXT, stuff like that. I would have never gotten the opportunity to do otherwise. So I guess you could say, long story short, it's LJ's fault.
Let's talk about Ella J for a second. She's very much been an inspiration to a lot of female content creators, but not only that, the wider audience as well. And it was an honor for me to sit down with her last week to talk about this and do the interview with her as well. What has she done for you? And when you look at her success of what she's happening now, where do you see her going?
I will say Ella is probably, I would say, you know how everybody always says like, oh, this person's like my tag partner for whatever it is. Like, yeah. I would say like she's probably my tag partner when it comes to not only like the travel stuff and like actually doing the content stuff, but like even like as a friend, like I can talk to her about damn near anything and just like have like a good camaraderie with her that I'm so grateful for. I feel like if anything, she is her own worst critic. I will tell her that to her face all the time. She needs to kind of get out of her own head because she's done some marvelous things over the years. years. I mean, how many people can say they've gotten to help with curating talent for not only one but two big all-women's pay-per-views in pro wrestling, getting to interview WWE superstars, AEW stars, getting to travel to all these events, realizing that, like, yeah, there's like a little bit of imposter syndrome that kind of comes with the territory for everybody, but like, don't be afraid to look back and be like, hey, I did some really cool shit. Like, I got published in PWI. I've gotten to talk to these people. I'm still able to make it my full-time career, which is something that she was super stressed out about at the time when she got the opportunity at first, but she is killing it. She needs to remember that just to take things a day at a time and things will sort out the way that they need to. But yeah, no, Ella is the real MVP.
Perfect. We've got a question here from you that happened earlier on in the show, but I wanted to wait to it till now. This is from Bobby Stats. He's put, which indie wrestlers from Buffalo should we keep an eye on that isn't signed to a major company?
Oh, I can think of a few already. First off, Kevin Blackwood. How the hell no one has signed him? I mean, he does some stuff with MLW here and there, but he is probably the one that got away, I would say, out of the Buffalo Brothers for sure. Because you think about people like a Daniel Garcia, a lot of the times that he was running stuff, it was alongside a Kevin Blackwood, alongside Kevin Bennett, who's another one. Puff is probably one of the funniest wrestlers I've ever gotten to see, just like in and out of the ring. I remember and being in the airport going to WrestleMania 38 after going through TSA. He was like, "Oh, hey," I'm like, "Oh shit, Puff, how's it going?" He's like, "Great." TSA just rubbed me down, for lack of better words, but just he's someone who's super cool. I can't wait to see him do stuff. And then even like outside of like traditional Buffalo, just like that Western New York, upstate New York scene, on the tag team side of things, you have CXR, who's a tremendous tag team. God, I can't imagine how they haven't done anything. Chael Connors and TJ. God, what the hell's TJ's last name? But look up CXR. They do a lot of stuff with Excite Wrestling, Empire State Wrestling. Saren Rain is another one that's huge over here. We've kind of adopted Christina Marie, who's originally from Albany, but she's our Empire State Wrestling Women's Champion. You have Haley Dillon, who's currently injured, but she's going to be doing great things as well. So a lot of prospects from Western New York that people are sleeping on. So you never know.
So we've got a few things here as well. So,
TJ Epics. Thank you, Ella.
perfect. There we go. She Loves You, iconic podcast, Diva Dirt Weekly. You're welcome. We've also got we've been crazy together sometimes, and a little happy face there. When in doubt, blame Heather. Very much so. Right now, this is when the music just gets a little bit louder. Maybe a bit too loud, that one. Right. I realised that as I pressed the button, I went, it's a bit loud, that one. Right, when this is now for the one-word answer, I can categorically say two people. Yeah, I'll give Ella a half, because she tried to hyphenate quite a lot of them. With some of the stuff that was... yeah. Yes. Very much so. That's the point of it. And now, here we go. Let's see how he does. So, this is a mixture of former professional wrestlers, current professional wrestlers. We've got a couple of singers, a TV show, and wrestling companies and OLE as well. So, there's a mixture of a lot of people here. So, if you're ready, are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. You're just copying my list now, Ella. You're literally copying my list. Very much so. Right, so we've also just got this. Honestly, I find this music less stressful than the Jacksonville trivia game. So, first wrestler, Victoria.
Beginning.
Edge.
Iconic.
John Cena.
Go.
Batista.
Animal.
Randy Orton.
I know what Ella wants me to say, and I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say constant.
Yeah. Rey Mysterio.
King.
I've just seen this, and it very much is for that as well. I said that though.
Oh no, I saw her say it. I knew she
Yeah.
wanted me to say it. I wasn't going to.
So, Eddie Guerrero.
Missed.
Oh, what a word! What that is? Yes. Damian Priest.
Boricua.
Wepa. I'm using that from now on in my life. I'm now
That is a
using
yes.
Mickey James.
Mother.
Paramore.
Nostalgia.
Sabrina Carpenter.
God, I'm really trying to think of one word. I might get heat for this one, but I'm going to say horny.
Yeah, okay.
If you've listened to Short and Sweet, you know exactly what the
Yeah.
hell I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Backstreet Boys. Don't know why. It was literally a band that popped in my head.
Yeah. Got one word. No, I'm going to be shady. I'm going to say NSYNC.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Bad Bunny.
Wait, say that again?
Bad Bunny.
I don't know if I can think of just one word. One word for Bad Bunny. Everywhere.
Yeah. Bailey.
Legendary.
I'm going to have to compose myself before I say this name. Sasha Banks. Or Mercedes Monet.
Standard.
Charlotte Flair.
Queen.
Oh, great. Becky Lynch.
Underestimated.
Great name. That is a good one. I like that one. Tony Khan.
Lively.
Triple H.
Cerebral.
Your brain works way too quick for me. Auntie Collins.
Pure.
Yeah. Astrid.
God, I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. Ready.
Bobby Money Munson.
Leader.
Ed Fries.
Bills.
I love that. Kimmy.
Do I be nice or do I keep the bit going?
Keep the bit going. Keep the bit going.
Who?
Oh, I love it. Ella J.
Bestie.
Exactly, see? Keep the bit. Ring of Honor.
Abandoned.
New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Illustrious.
Stardom.
Awakening.
Marigold.
Prospect.
AEW.
Improved.
TNA.
Breakthrough.
Yeah. NXT.
Cooking.
Yeah. Agree with you on that one. Got 2 left. 3 left. WWE.
It.
Me.
Charming.
Oh, not the first nice one. And next up, the last one, but no means least. Family.
Everything.
And that's it. You absolutely smashed that. Very much so. Yes, deal with it. He called me charming.
Someone has to. Be nice, Astrid.
She doesn't know what that is. Wait for the comment. Wait for the comment. Right. As we're coming to the end, I would like you to, because I know you've got a show coming up soon with the lovely Ed Fries. I have to say one thing nice about him in a stream. And you've got coming up with Astrid Pizarro as well, coming up very soon as well. But tell the ladies and gentlemen where they can see you and what content you've got coming up.
Oh gosh, I mean, October is going to be jam-packed with content over on my channel, so I keep it nice and easy. JoseOnAir.com has everything that could be a link, so whether it's Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, even my merch is on there. And, get yourself a nice coffee mug, a sticker, a shirt. I heard the hoodies are nice. I still need to get one myself, but that's an option as well. So they have everything you need as far as links go. To make sure I'm not missing anybody, I do have it pulled up here. So we are going to have 4 big episodes of My Guest at this time. So that's my wrestling show that I do on my channel. So whether it's going to be interviews or predictions, this is a whole month of predictions because we have 4 big events coming up. So we need 4 big episodes. So coming up, we have on October 4th, that Friday, we're doing Bad Blood predictions with the men behind Between Two Beards over at Love Wrestling CA. You have Pluggo and JPJ Loves Gaming, and someone you guys know, and I don't know if it's love yet, but you tolerate her, Kimmy Sokol. We're doing Bad Blood predictions there on the 4th. On the 11th, not to be outdone by WWE, we have AEW Wrestle Dream predictions with one LJ that you all know and love here. She's everywhere, as well as Emily May. So she's someone that's been doing a lot of reporting stuff for Sportskeeda. She does it for Wrestling News Co. She's a backstage correspondent for New Japan Pro Wrestling, was at Forbidden Door on behalf of New Japan. She is stellar. I'm very glad that I got to actually work with Emily on this one. October 21st, it's a week of a doubleheader. So I figured what better way to have your NXT taking over team than to talk about not NXT, but instead TNA Bound for Glory. So good old Ed Fries and Astrid Pizarro, the natural, they're making their way over to my show. We're talking the TNA part of NXTNA. So Bound for Glory predictions there on the 21st. And on the 25th, last but certainly not least, you've seen the merch online. You've seen the podcast. She is awesome. I have Lo from Wrestling Wind Down that'll be joining me. So a jam-packed month of quality wrestling predictions over at Jose on the Air's YouTube channel. And we might be streaming here and there. If anything, we might have a Jackbox night coming up. We might have some Fall Guys coming up. Who knows? But you can know if you just follow me at Jose on the Air everywhere. That's all.
Perfect. And if you don't know me, I'm everywhere. I've got Mark Talks Wrestling, where currently we're coming to the end of Series 2 of WWE 2K24, where Bobby Money Munson is the general manager of MLW. And in Series 3, he will be transferred to being the general manager of TNA. TNA will be coming to Series 3. And Lauren Goodnight is the general manager to AEW. But I decided, because I'm the overlord of all of it all, that AEW should never exist ever again. And she will be going to Japan to be the general manager of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the UK, myself, I'm the WWE general manager. And I will be moving the whole of the WWE headquarters to England. So make sure you check the series and the draft for that. Mark Talks Football, we're currently doing a football manager save where we are Tottenham Hotspur and we're trying to win the Premier League. So make sure you check that out. And Mark Talks Gaming, we are near the end of replaying GTA 5 in 2024. And that series is coming to an end with F1 Manager 24. So make sure you go and check me out, follow and all that crap. But it's not about me anyway, so who cares about me anyway? But thank you. What I would like to say on behalf of myself and behalf of everyone here, thank you ever so much for coming on. You are an absolutely incredible human being. You are an absolute insightful person. I've got to know you so well during this show. And I say this to everyone, if you ever need anything, I am always there for you. So please don't be shy. Message me whenever you need me. But thank you ever so much for coming onto the show today. It means the absolute world to me.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Mark. This was fun. It's always fun getting to see what Ole has going on too. This was a great conversation. Love that we had so many people in the chat that were joking around with us too when we were joking around. But it was just a really good conversation overall. 10 out of 10 would recommend for anybody. So.
Exactly. And we will be back next week, this time next week, as I've said before, where I will be interviewing Lauren Goodnight, the same time, same place. But without further ado, my name's been Mark. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. And we will see you guys very, very soon. Peace.